or maybe go even from the beginning. So the beginning would be the fact that this is my project of the original done by instructions from tutorial of the official documentation for Godot 4.3, your first 2D game, and it contains the my version, like a larger screen version of a game. So we got our guy here, the creeps come in. Here they have enabled bounciness in my version, but don't change the trajectory except when they kick each other, when they bounce off each other. But that's all. Usually they just go directly through each other, no collisions on their bodies. And my idea was to build for me a kind of a sandbox to develop further. And I didn't want, and I stopped spending time on different or other tutorials of a game that involves creating assets. At this point, I'm more curious about how actually things work. What is available right out of the box for the engine, from the engine, and what can I use for interactive prototyping. So I've decided, well, if we have the simulation physics already out of the box working, I'll have that will already animate the characters like mobs, and while the player character is controlled by the player. I'll try to slow down the speech because I'll stop making sense. I think still that I'm kind of quite reasonable in my expressing the idea. So that was the original, little bit modified game version, and what I have built or changed to last stream. I went deeper into looking through the documentation for the recipes available for movement, the usual patterns for moving characters or entities or mobs, enemies, let's say. I went to implement them like more like a basic, let's call it AI. Now I gave them ability to, actually I just revealed them the player location and give them on their each animation frame to the mobs a slight force impulse to their physics bodies, and their nodes are rigid 2D bodies. I also gave, since they always can see the player, since I pass to their moving implementation of their movement, I pass them the coordinates, I reveal them position in the code, which looks like this, I think. in the unanimated sprite 2D signal, on sprite 2D frame change, I think. Yeah, so their node for animation has a animation player, animated sprite, and since that node has in the signals frame change, I actually just use that to connect to the script a place where I will send them, give them a little bit of a central force impulse towards direction at the player. And I use the look at player, the inbuilt function. So actually this is 3 things I implemented to get, well, for the movement. There are a few more tweaks required to get the physics working from the original tutorial. But hey, here's the important bit. What's next? I have a few ideas. I took a little bit of time before the stream to think about it. And that would be, well, I want to expand this prototyping sandbox, now I can call it, to exercise, expand to create myself a play field for, well, implement a reason and then create a pattern, hopefully. Get some outline for a pattern, messaging. And after that, networking. That would be the roadmap for this, let's say, my learning course that I'm sharing with you all. So if I can figure out the messaging in a game, that's already a outline that gives me a outline, a frame, frames the data that is involved in communication internally for the game design, game logic, sending signals up, down the node tree, and also dynamically loading parts of a game, scenes, resource. And that gives me a clearer overview of what data would be and how would I wrap a data in case I want a networking multiplayer concept involved. So I'll slowly go towards there. I don't want to just jump directly into networking before I actually know what data I want to send, how to, what game design I want to be involved in the networked, what parts of game. For now, I'll keep the gameplay more like simulation. But I had the idea to kind of virtualize networking, having two nested scenes, like a gameplay screens in a single scene. Also run each as a simulation, but they're sharing, they're actually like a split screen multiplayer on-site gameplay, something like that. And that's already multiplayer networking. It just doesn't use the network facility, but it passes the data also like it is a type of network that is actually not, it's inter-process communication, electronic data exchange, Eddy, EDI. That would be about the kind of my mindset and a roadmap for the near future. What I want to learn, how to handle. I really like the simulation aspects. That physics simulation of the engine already provides enough ticking. It's kind of a simplified AI game loop logic. Just need to implement the way to direct it, like I did actually for this version L2 of Dodge the Creeps, where, like I said, I kept the initial trajectory for the creeps, but I revealed them the player position, so on each animation frame change, for each one of them, they kind of turn to the player, and for each animation frame where they're like kind of which represent their kind of body movement, walking, flying, swimming, they get that gives them like a step towards a force, central force impulse applied. So I don't apply external force to them, but that's the other method available for the rigid body that actually gets them spinning. It involves changing rotation of the character, so I want to like I actually allow them that they can give the impression of they're looking towards the player like they see him. So that would be the look at in the script. That would be the look at player. That's how they turn towards the player, but the engine gives them a little impulse towards the player. Those are like their steps. Visually, that type of movement kind of reinforces the notion that these are some kind of microscopic, like a simple organisms floating in a drop under the microscope. That's how they look to me, like with their cell nucleus, where their intelligence and perception is projected from, with the white eye. So they're like floating. Something is keeping them afloat, like from the initial kick that they get, like in the original game. And there, as they see the player, they can kind of jiggle around towards him and overpower the initial force, the velocity that's applied to them, and start moving, flocking, squatting around the player, but they also kick each other off the screen. So there are a few ideas I have about the new game mechanics inside, also driven by the physics engine, because I don't want to bother at the moment about the player. I have an idea to create 2-3 elaborate on the mob types by their animation frames. So looking again in the original game design, the mobs originally have 3 animation sets, 3 animations in the animation player. Sprite frames, animations, fly, swim, walk. And I can actually elaborate on them, on these 3 things. So I'm curious on one other thing. I don't want to at the moment spend time on creating new assets, like I want the engine for me to use the engine for me to make the image, the representation of mobs, like add them some dynamic shading, something dynamically during runtime to visually change their visual appearance, like maybe shader or material. But I'll keep them 2D. So this is a idea of creating a sandbox prototyping project at the moment the main project structure is very same as the original. Same as the original tutorial implementation. One scene. What I did, I just copied except the player. Player is as the original implementation, but I created a second, like level 2 scene, which is the main game area. It looks the same, it's not distinguishable. So what I could do, I could actually implement some distinction, like change the title here, but in this title, the thing is that the head-up display, where why can't I click this head-up display, inspector? Well, I guess I need to open the scene because here it says dodge the creeps message, so maybe I should do another exercise, simple exercise, let's say, and since the L2 scene is reusing the existing scene for head-up display, like I just opened it. So this scene gets loaded into L2, and what actually from what I actually changed the direction a few moments ago, what I want to say, this is very good your first 3D game is a great project to start learning, because it showcases all the important bits and allows expanding on, elaborating, like implementing other ideas. And I've done it on day 7 and spent, I don't know, 13 more days going in circles through the other tutorials, but it was interesting and good exercises. I wouldn't undo that. I can't unlearn what I've learned then. But altogether, this is also enough of a learning material and combed implementation that one does going through that initial official formal first 2D game tutorial. I hit a stream marker and take a short break. And like always, the short breaks consists of visiting the scene over here, the Commodore 64, like a chiptunes music television from Studio Lab at Eddy, playing high voltage music from high voltage SID collection, music for Commodore 64. And I take a short leg stretch.